Hey, what's going on, Meek Planet? Thank you for landing. Thank you for being here. I welcome you. This is a personal journey. And when I say personal, I mean to everyone who's listening, for us to become who we truly are. You see, they, and by they, I mean whoever we allow to run the world we live in. And when I say we, I mean the masses, the ones who really have the power to change anything we want at any time we want. I'm talking about us. Because you see, we have been artificially held to a subconscious standard, which makes us stay in a conscious mind of survival. And this was done on purpose. You see, the last thing a dictatorial society needs is the population of the planet going meek. Look at this sign here. This is a shirt I received in 1987. It says, "The meek may inherit the earth, but they won't get the ball." Now, to most, I'm sure this was a basketball shirt. But to me, that first phrase stuck with me. Now, one reason it stuck with me is because I was raised in a Baptist church. So I had heard the phrase before, but I never tried to make sense of it until someone put it in this basketball term. They made it related into basketball. And of course, I was really good at basketball. But it stuck with me because I wondered, well, how would the meek inherit the earth? Because just by this phrase alone, it shows that there's some underlying thought that they won't be able to, because people are confused They purposely confuse meek with weak, and they have nothing to do with each other. A weak person has no power. A weak person submits unwillingly, either through fear, lack of power, lack of self-esteem, or just to go along in order to ease the situation. A meek person willingly has to submit power. A meek person has all the power in the situation. When you talk about meek characters, if I'm going to talk about a character and try and describe the meek, I would have to use characters like Moses from the Bible, Superman, Nelson Mandela. Some may say Gandhi. To be meek is to reach the highest state of consciousness. Now, I can't say for sure whether Nelson Mandela reached the highest state of consciousness, but to be so selfless, and to do what he did without coming out bitter is an attribute of the meek. You want proof that meek and weak are not together? Simply look at weakness. Weakness goes on to describe the attributes of being weak. But then when you look at meekness, you can see the clear separation that it has nothing to do with weak. That's where you start talking about righteousness and humility, because that is meek. We'll have a journey together, or at least those who subscribe and like the channel. And we'll do some reaction videos as well. But the reaction videos won't be to determine right or wrong, but where in the consciousness level this person is and why. Because there's no difference between a billionaire pulling a white collar scam and a murderer. They're in the same survival level of consciousness. Money can't increase your survival level. In fact, the easiest way to control you is because now you have such an ego. It's such vanity. That's why they call you things, people want to call themselves things like beast, king, queen. All of those are from superior titles. If you have a title or you have an ego or you are vain, it's easy to control you because you are going to go off of emotions and things that you can't maintain. You can't maintain vanity. This is why they can sell you all of this. To put any of your true human spirit into the body alone is a waste of your consciousness. Check out this video from Mr. Jordan Peterson.
You have to push beyond the persona, and that's what the integration of the shadow does from the Jungian perspective. It's like to pull that monster that's being edited out of you, to pull that back in and to allow that to reveal itself within your increasingly sophisticated way of being. And then you're not just a persona.
So if you want to push back on your persona, are you saying that you have to cultivate your shadow? Is that the premier path?
Yeah, because the thing is, you can't escape from your persona unless you can say no. Here's an example from popular culture. In the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter's obviously the hero of the story, but he's touched by malevolence, right? The only reason he can stand up against evil is because there's some evil in him that he's incorporated, essentially. Well, that's exactly right. And the persona, if you're a persona, then you're an obedient citizen. But the problem with being an obedient citizen is that if the society tells you to march the Jews off to the death camp, for example, and you're obedient, then that's what you'll do. And it isn't like society is civilized and then all of a sudden you're performing some act of atrocity. That isn't how it works. It's like you're obedient citizen and then you're asked to violate your conscience a little bit.
Yeah.
And you have to, because you don't have anything other than that persona. And that's obedience. And so a little more obedience is demanded and you say, okay, well, and then you're a little bent, because the society is becoming a little bent, and then you're a little weaker. Then you're asked to violate your conscience a little bit more, and you think, well, there's a little less of me, and the pressure's on a little more, and I could have said no before, but I didn't. So you say yes again, then you say yes again, and then you have a society where 1/3 of the population is informing on the other 2/3. Yeah. It's hell. It's like, well, so how do you say no? Well, that's the shadow. It's like, and the reason that the video I did about Bill C-16 and its compelled speech provisions went viral was because I said no. I didn't say it casually. What I meant was, there isn't anything that you can do to me that I can imagine that will force me to utter the words that you want me to utter. Nothing. And I meant it. And when I made the video, I think people could actually tell that I meant it. And so I took this abstract problem and made it concrete. I said, no, that's not happening. And that's part of the incorporation of the shadow.
But in this regard, the shadow is actually benevolent, not malevolent.
Well, once it's incorporated, well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to make of that in its entirety, because it sort of means that it means something like, because one of the old metaphysical problems is, why would God allow evil into the world? I think, well, maybe God didn't allow evil into the world. Maybe God allowed the possibility of evil into the world. That's different. And maybe the world with the possibility of evil is actually a better world than the world without the possibility of evil. It's something like that, in that maybe a man is better when he's a dangerous man who's being good than he would be if he was just a good man who wasn't capable of being dangerous. And I believe that, because the best men that I've ever met are very dangerous men. Yeah. You don't mess with them.
Yeah.
And you know that as soon as you meet them.
Do you think weak men can be virtuous?
No.
Because I think that when you're weak, let's say that signals that you don't have the options to sin.
Right.
Which is something that creates resentment, and resentment creates corruption. So in this sequence, do you think that someone without teeth or without the options to sin can be
good? See, that's a real theological question, right? Because the question you're asking is, and this is tied up with the idea of free will and evil. Can a person who doesn't have the option to be evil be good? And I would say no. So maybe that's the reason that, metaphysically speaking, you know, and I don't know where you are when you're speaking metaphysically exactly, but the question of why is there evil in the world is a constant question. It's like, it's possible that without the possibility of evil, there cannot be good. Good requires the possibility of evil. And maybe good is so good that the fact that it requires the possibility of evil is acceptable. Maybe it's even desirable. I mean, you know, you kind of end up on the edge of your knowledge when talking about such things, but it seems to me to be right.
Yeah.
And it seems to be right in a lived sense, you know, like I met Jocko Willink. He's a good example. I mean, Willink was the commander in Ramada, I think, and you know, you can say what you want about American military involvement. It has nothing to do with that, really. Not at this level of analysis. He's a tough guy.
I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, so you know.
He gets up every morning at 5:30, 4:30.
He's a tough guy. He told me quite straightforwardly that he was one of those kids that as an adolescent could have gone either way, right?
Yeah.
He could have been a highly successful street criminal.
Yeah, probably.
Right, but probably. Well, you can see it. But he decided not to do that. And you know, he's very, I would say
He was a SEAL, right?
That's right. And he's psychophysiologically intimidating. He's a big guy. You can tell he knows how to use it, and you can tell he used it.
Yeah.
But as far as I can tell, he's a good person. And that's actually, all of that capacity for mayhem is part of what makes him a good person.
Yeah.
And people know that. That's why they're listening to him.
Yeah.
And like I said, the other people I've met the men I've met who are good men, they're all like that. They're all dangerous. They're all dangerous.
Yeah. Have they all been not good men before? Or is that not part of becoming a good man?
I would say they've certainly all done things that well, you know, adolescents break rules, right? And healthy adolescents break rules. And so then the question is, well, how extreme does the rule breaking become? Well, it would vary from person to person, but I would say that most of them, not all of them, but most of them were more on the end of the rule breaking spectrum, right? They broke more rules than normal, but they clued in, you know, and explored that and then decided, no, that's better than cowardice.
Yeah.
It's better than weakness, but it's not as good as what's good.
Yeah. So if you follow this doctrine, actually the people that are accusing you of instantiating like toxic masculinity, well, let's say that it's true that you're promoting male strength. If you follow
masculine
this
strength. It's
yeah.
important because I'm also promoting it in women.
Yeah.
You know, like my daughter's a good example, man. She's tough. You don't mess with her. She'll cut you apart.
Yeah. I believe you. Maybe it was wrongly phrased. Then.
No, it's okay.
No, but the thing, what I'm trying to get is that when you're telling people to empower themselves.
I wouldn't say that because I'd never use that word.
Empower?
I hate that word, but it's okay.
To become
I'm
stronger.
Encouraging people.
Yeah.
I like that word better because I'm encouraging people.
Yeah.
You know, to put courage into them. That's better.
Yeah. So by becoming courageous, you increase your potential for being virtuous. That's basically.
Well, and one of the most amazing things that I discovered this year, or stumbled upon, was I was puzzling over a line in the New Testament, which I've always been curious about because it never set right with me. The meek shall inherit the earth. And so I was, as I said before, if you go online, Bible Hub, I think it's called, Bible Hub. It's really good for this because it contains a collection of commentaries, so you can look at a verse.
Right?
You can look at a verse and other translations, multiple translations, and multiple commentators. So each verse is taken apart by many, many people. And I found out that the word meek either doesn't mean now what it meant when people first translated the text, or it was a mistranslation, either way. But because meek sounds like powerless and harmless, it's something like that, right? But what meek actually means, it's the derivation of a word, it's the translation of a word that meant something more like those who have swords and know how to use them but keep them sheathed. I thought, oh yes, that's exactly it. The world those who have swords and know how to use them but choose to keep them sheathed will inherit the world. It's like, yes, exactly right, exactly right.